If you had to predict one major change in education by 2035, what would it be?
I think paper-based examinations will be gone.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Heliberi Astana Education Podcast. Education is changing rapidly with AI, personalized learning and all of the innovations. How does this impact students, teachers and parents? To answer these questions, we have John Coles, the headmaster of Heliberi Astana School. Hi, John.
Hi.
John, can you briefly introduce yourself and tell us about your experience in education?
Yes, I'm John Coles. I've been in education now 27 years. I have worked in Kazakhstan for the last 8 years. Regarding my knowledge in technology, when I was back in Heliberi, UK, I was their head of IT. I then moved to a school where we took the school to become an Apple Distinguished School, and I used to work for Apple and other various educational companies as a guest speaker and lecturer and training teachers.
All right. Okay. That's really exciting. I didn't know that you were the head of IT previously.
Yeah,
This is something new to me. Right. Okay. We all know the majority of us are actually scared by the future, but what excites you the most about the future of education at the moment?
I think that one of the key things which is coming in is obviously AI. Education and technology, whatever that may be, has many exciting opportunities. AI has potential to allow students to explore areas they haven't looked at before. But I think I always put as a caveat is technology is only a tool. It will never take over from actual teaching.
Thank you, John. AI is revolutionizing education, from AI tutors to adaptive learning platforms. But how far can it really go?
I think with AI, you always have to remember, I have a personal belief that the human teacher is always able to relate more to the student. AI will gather vast amounts of information and produce it either, for example, like ChatGPT, or it can turn out images, musics and sounds. It will, unlike Google or a search engine, it will take the information and actually put it together in an argument or a paper or whatever you're writing. The key issue with AI is that children must realize that AI is a tool to stimulate their thinking. If they just rely on AI, they're not actually doing the thinking. They're actually relying on the AI to do the thinking for them. And that's one of the challenges of AI.
Thank you. How AI is being actually used in education, and what's the impact so far?
I mean, probably the most used AI platform is obviously ChatGPT. It's one of those.
That's correct.
You can, if you haven't tried it, you can type in questions, interviews, also image generation. Sound generation, a lot of presentation software like Canva, for example, has got all AI behind that. Most people are actually using AI, might not even know they're using AI. That's the main use at the moment. AI is changing so rapidly. It's like schools and educators are having to learn as fast as the students to which of the apps they're going to use.
Yeah, this all sounds really exciting, but we all are aware as an educators that there are some potential risks and ethical concerns coming with AI in education. What do you think they are?
Plagiarism.
Yes.
Plagiarism is the biggest one. And if you're an experienced teacher and you work with your pupils, if a piece of work is produced and you know that pupil, you could look at that and go, But increasingly AI is getting more and more sophisticated. So you can type in, write this as a 15-year-old pupil. That's the real thing. So it's teaching pupils that AI is a tool, but you can't just pass off AI work as your own. That's plagiarism.
Thank you. Do you think that AI tutors could potentially replace human teachers in the future?
AI tutors are actually being used a lot by many schools around the world, actually as a support to the human tutor. AI doesn't have consciousness, although some people say it looks like it just mimics that. I think it does allow many children access to a vast quantity of data which previously they didn't have access to. Yes, I believe in the future most children will have an AI tutor. but they will still rely on the in-house and in-class tutor.
Thank you. That's encouraging and reassuring as well. John, we know that virtual and augmented reality are creating immersive learning experience now. How are they currently being used in our classrooms?
Okay, so there's two types of, as we said, virtual reality, which probably more people are aware of, is where you wear the headsets. It's used a lot by the gaming community there. So, for example, if you have that equipment, a child can put a VR headset on and using an educational app can be transported back into an event or a time. So particularly in history, you could put a VR headset on and you could be back in Roman times. You could be in a Roman temple, and it allows them to see it spatially. Augmented reality is different. It's developing. Again, it's where you have an app on your tablet device or phone, and you point that device at a certain trigger. Now, it could be within a book, it could be a QR code. And what that does, it creates a 3D image on your device. So, for example, I've seen it in biology lessons where you scan it and then you've got a 3D heart, and you can walk around the heart with your device and you can dissect it by taking layers off. Particularly useful in science, particularly in biology. For an example, I saw a class where they had, rather than having a human body there was an image, just a flat image, and you scanned it, and then in front of you, you had the human body, and you could walk around it and dissect it using your iPad or whatever device. It was amazing, and the pupils are actually able to look inside and actually have the visual image there.
Wow. Do you think that it will become a standard in schools or will remain as a niche tool?
The equipment is expensive. I think I think it will remain a niche. I think augmented reality probably stands a higher chance because a lot of people now have mobile devices. VR headsets are expensive, and unless the price rapidly drops, the majority of schools will not be able to afford them.
Well, but apart from the prices, what are the biggest challenges, in your opinion, preventing VR and AR from being widely adopted?
I think one of the other things is actually you're going to train the teachers how to use them. Augmented reality is quite easy. You're just there. But if you say to teachers who have never used virtual reality before, oh, by the way, you want the people to put the headsets on, the development and use of technology also depends on how you're training your teachers. A lot of teachers, like myself, have grown up through a more traditional style. That's why you've either got to re-educate them, which of course it takes time, but also look at how the younger teachers are being trained. They cannot be trained in the traditional methods. Yes, obviously there's some you have to train, but they need to be also looking at new technology.
Yeah, thank you. I know that with the new technology coming, there are many parents and teachers that are actually worried about the future of traditional school and universities. Do you think that they will exist in 20 years or will they be completely transformed?
I think it's quite a common saying is our children of today will be doing jobs which don't currently exist. Schooling, and I've seen in 27 years when I started teaching, it was very much about fact-based learning. You would have an examination which tested your memory recall. Now you have devices which can bring all that information to you. So what you're training, or you need to be training pupils on, are skills. The skills which show how they interact and can use their energy, use their information. When they go to a new job, it's those skill sets, resilience, resourcefulness, creativity is what the employer will be looking for. So I think we will move from that traditional knowledge base, and already the teacher is no longer the most knowledgeable person in the classroom because you have the internet. Now, increasingly as people get more and more access to the internet, it's the role of the teacher is guiding the student. Will we still have terminal examinations in certain subjects? We do. I'm not sure that will exist. Will handwritten examinations probably by 2035, if the school or pupils have access to technology? No, they won't, because handwriting, and I'm not talking about the younger years where it's very important for motor skills, but in the working world, handwriting it's decreasing particularly. And the question is, what people will say is, why are we teaching children to handwrite? And in the older years, when actually in the workplace, most people are using electronic devices. That is a debate which is ongoing.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you regard to it. How do you see the balance between the online and in-person learning shifting in the future?
I mean, during the COVID time, everything moved online. And I think there was a real drive for online. Online education allows many more children to gain access to education, which I think is really important. However, we also noticed that part of education and part of schools isn't just about educating the academic. It's about those well-being skills. It's about how children interact and their social skills. Online education will allow vast numbers of children to access education. I think my preference would continue to be schools where you have teachers in person who can actually, from a teaching, and when you're in the class, you can read the class, you can look at a child. That's very hard to do when you've got online. So I think teaching and having a teacher there will continue, because actually that's how children thrive. And if you think about school days, you had the teachers who really made you want to learn. It's much harder for a teacher online to do that.
Thank you. What role will lifelong learning play in future careers?
It'll be fundamental. Schools will move away from knowledge-based to skills-based. As an adult, you know that you have to have lifelong learning to develop. Those are the skills which, if we can put into children at a younger age, will then help them go to whatever job they're going to do. The traditional days of when somebody worked for one company for 30 years are long past. I think the most recent thing I saw was that the children today will probably be doing about 15 jobs in their career, and they will be changing careers. And it's the skill sets which allow you to do that, not the knowledge.
Yeah. And as an HR professional, I agree with you. Yeah. We are talking a lot about changes today. Some of them are rapid, some of them are even drastic. How do you think the institution can get themselves ready for these changes?
I was at a recent conference with a lot of directors. COVID helped modernize teaching hugely. AI is driving things at a very fast rate. It's very much an unknown for institutions. I think the key thing you can do is try and focus on the skills. Not every school has access to technology, but it's much more about the skills-based learning.
Yeah.
Trying to get pupils to be creative thinkers rather than passive learners. And a lot of the old education systems was you sat there and you were just given information. Modern day teachers need to be getting children to think. Many schools are looking at about, those end of year examinations. Shouldn't children be assessed all the time?
Thank you, John. Before we wrap up, one last question for you. If you had to predict one major change in education by 2035, what would it be?
There's a few. I think paper-based examinations will be gone. That's already starting to come in. What else? There's always discussions about the timings of schools, particularly for teenagers. The teenage brain doesn't work as well as it's a different one. They're going through puberty. Starting early in the morning is not great for learning for teenagers. Now, and studies have shown actually schools should start later. Whether that will occur, I don't know. But there will be a much more greater use of AI in schools.
Thank you, John, for your insights. Where can our community find more about your work?
I think on the HLB website, LinkedIn, those type of places.
Thank you, John. And to our audience, what do you think the future of the education will be in 2040? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for the future episodes. That's all for now, and I'll see you next time.